Welcome to Compas on the Beat. It's NFL Week 17, which is so hard to believe. Where did the time go in the NFL 2023 season? In a regular year, I guess it's regular now. 2 years ago, probably it would have been the final week of the regular season. We have 18 weeks now, so a lot to be determined in terms of playoff implications, and a lot of teams are still alive. So we're gonna break it all down here on Compas on the Beat. I'm Gilberto Manzano. You probably call me Gilbert or Gil. I work for Sports Illustrated, and I'm a co-host and a co-founder for Compas on the Beat. But I'm not alone. It might look like it though. But in the audio, that voice you hear, Vic, the producer, Victor Corona, Javier Corona. Victor, where's your voice at?
Right here, ready for this Week 17 preview. Ready to roll.
Okay, can you believe it's Week 17? Because I can't.
No, man, it's been flying with how busy this NFL season has kept us. Honestly, I sometimes lose track of where we're at, but because I have to produce a bunch of shows, I'm reminded of what week we're in.
Yeah, we keep you busy here on Compas on the Beat. But if you're watching from Compas on the Beat, the channel, we appreciate you. You're watching from What's Up Boats, our channel where we talk all things Chargers. We appreciate you as well. You're watching from House of Horns, where we talk all things Rams. We appreciate you as well. So good to bring people together here to talk some football, NFL Week 17. And a quick breakdown. We are going to chat. We're going to talk a bunch of football here, but it shows about you engaging, talking football. Get in the chat, get in the comments, and give me a takeaway from the NFL Week 17. How about Russell Wilson? Got benched, and I got to sign a story today at SI to rank the worst trades in NFL history. And people might think I'm 21 years old because I ranked 3 trades that happened in the last couple of years for top 5 worst trades. I did rank Herschel Walker trade number 1 as the worst trade of all time, so I'm not that young there. But yeah, check that out, SI. But we're going to talk about Russell Wilson. But you want to talk about fantasy football? I am not in the finals of my leagues, but Victor is. The voice you hear, he's in the championship final. You can ask him for fantasy football advice. I might know a thing or two about football. We could talk fantasy football here. You got a hot take, that's fine too. You want to have a conversation about sports betting? You got a bet you want to bet on? How about those Patriots, maybe plus 13 against the Bills? The Bills did not cover against the Chargers. We could talk about that too as well. So this show's about you. That's correct, right, Victor?
Yep, it is. And, we got a lot to get into. We got our headline of the game. Headline game of the week this week, which is a pretty doozy one. It involves 2 teams that, were, I guess you can say one of them was a favorite last week and the other one was a big underdog. And then we have our page 2, our second tier games that we'll get into, our future water cooler storylines, where we go over what's coming up next, what people are going to be talking about come Monday morning. And then we get to our bets of the betting locks of the week, Gilbert. We both did really well. We went 3 out of 5 last week. Big rebound week for you. And I'm just keeping steady. I've now hit, I think I went 5 for 5. 4 for 5 or 3 for 5 and then 3 for 5 again. So we've been doing really good with our bets of the betting locks of the week. And then we finish off with quick dump offs, Gilbert.
Yeah, you're being modest on the sports bets, NFL bets, Victor, because you're kicking my ass right now on these bets. Like you keep getting like 4 out of 5, and I thought I did okay with 3 out of 5, but no, you go and do better than I do. So yeah, I feel like Russell Wilson right now, a little down, but no, I shouldn't joke like that. But let's start off the show that way. We have an engagement question of the week, and it's not a particular game, but I want to talk about real quick about Russell Wilson and where will Russell Wilson? Let me try that one more time. Where will Russell Wilson play next year? Because I don't feel bad about him because he's making $39 million in 2024 guaranteed money. But it probably won't be with the Broncos. He got benched today. A lot of stories coming out or reporting of him being asked to defer or I guess not or waive his injury money, I guess, which I would not do. I don't blame Russell Wilson for not doing that. And then being told that if you don't do it, you're going to be benched or inactive. And Russell Wilson just went out and beat some teams. They won 5 games in a row, but it went south. And it was a good time for Sean Payton to bench Russell Wilson. And I'll just say this. Like, I think Sean Payton was trying to make us believe that he could fix Russell Wilson. That's why he was boasting to USA Today, saying whatever Nathaniel Hackett did, he messed it up. We'll fix Russell Wilson. Well, you couldn't, and you wanted to give up on Russell Wilson in October because you knew he has taken a couple steps back. He had a pretty safe offense, and it worked out for the most part. Just a bunch of handoff, and then go throw to Cortland Sutton, and it won them 5 games in a row, and they're doing okay. But if you hear the Cats, by the way, they're a little chatty right now. But Russell Wilson, wasn't the best second year with the Broncos. They won a little more than the first year. But now I wonder where he's going to go. Is that it for him? Would he be a starter in the NFL? Let me know in the comments where will Russell Wilson? I don't know. It's hard for me to say. Play next year. I don't know where he could go. Maybe he goes back to the Seahawks. Geno Smith and Drew Lock are kind of so quarterbacks, but that'd be a funny scenario there. But I don't know what you think, Victor. But I think the writing was on the wall when they hired Sean Payton. It was more like feel out year. Try to see if you can make it right with the roster. If you can't, no worries, we'll reset and then pretty much have a rebuilt roster for next year because it couldn't get out of the contract in 2023. They found their way out in 2024, but they got to take a lot of dead money, pay the guy to go away too. So it did not work. We got a comment here from Nancy. Shout out Nancy. She was on our lives last week for House of Horns and Compas on the Beat. So we appreciate the support, Nancy. Wilson will be out of a job next year if Sean can't fix him. No one else can't. That's tough. I think he'll but maybe that's a question. Maybe like, can he put pride aside and be a backup and wait for an opportunity to kind of come back and earn it that way? Because I don't know if you'll get a starting quarterback job, but as you see the carousel of the quarterback, they tend to get a second opportunity elsewhere. So, what do you think, Victor?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's going to get another opportunity somewhere, but he's going to have to probably come in kind of like what we saw from Joe Flacco, where he kind of sits out and then, tries to get a job somewhere, and somebody's going to come calling. Because as we've seen now with the new schedule of 17 games, you're gonna have quarterbacks go down, and you're gonna
Yeah.
have opportunities. But I think the biggest thing, Gilbert, was that Jarrett Stidham has started a trend here where if you sign him, that probably means that your quarterback has a salary problem, because we saw that with Derek Carr last year.
Yeah.
He was able to start the final couple of games after the Raiders also asked him to do the same thing that the Broncos are asking the Broncos are asking Russell Wilson to do, which is, hey, we don't want you to get injured because we want to get rid of you at the end of the season. So we want to be able to cut you and not lose out on money. So yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be.
You might be onto something there with the Jarrett Stidham rule, and he was one of the first backup quarterbacks taken in free agency. So people think highly about him as a number two at least. But we'll see what he does in his year of backup quarterbacks. But yeah, if Stidham's on your roster, you're the starting quarterback currently, and look over your shoulder and be like, okay, your days are probably over because yeah, they're brought in competition. But yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I just want to share my thoughts on it. I think the writing was on the wall, like I mentioned, like they're going to be kind of a, pedestrian team, maybe win like right now, 7-8 is the perfect example. I did not expect that type of chaos in September where they were really bad. They were 1-5, got beat down 70-20 by the Dolphins, but then they kind of picked it up. Vance Joseph doing a nice job there. So they're still not out of the playoff mix, but they're not going to make it, I feel like. But yeah, I would not be surprised if Wilson gets a starting job again. Somebody always thinks they could fix him, or maybe he puts pride aside, takes a backup role, and earns it a different way. We see Joe Flacco out there. He had to wait his turn a little bit. Carson Wentz, had to wait his turn. He couldn't find a starting job, and he's with the Rams as a backup. So things change very quickly. And real quick here, Nancy, shout out to you from Orange County, Santa Ana, Santana, as the people say. So show a great way to show love. Let me know where you guys are from. Somebody asked me earlier on House of Horns, where are you from? And I made a joke, but I won't say it again. But yeah, we would like to know where everybody's from. We get a couple people from Chile, from Canada, not just the United States. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to Russell Wilson, it'll be interesting to see what happens with his career. I mean, I think he's been a guy where, he's, he was one of those players where I think he was a bit overhyped because of the success that the Legion of Boom had. And one of the things that always stood out to me was the fact that he never got an MVP vote. Like, I know people put him up there,
Wow.
like he was one of those players that should have been, top five, but it just tells you that his career, I don't think it's even Hall of Fame worthy. I mean, at this point, he was helped out by a really good defense, and he was a game manager when he was with Seattle, and then he picked it up, got overpaid. And shout out to Fernando because he called this. He said that, Fernando Ramirez said that, before the season that Russell Wilson would be bench, and it's happened with 2 games to go, Gilbert.
Yeah, that's a good debate there. Has he done enough to be a Hall of Famer? I thought when he got over the game manager phase where he relied on a very good defense. I think he had some pretty good years where he was top five in the NFL, and you're top five for a good amount of years. Maybe I could get you in, not as a first ballot. Maybe he has a second kind of push somewhere else. But these 2 years with the Broncos really lingers in people's mind, and that could hurt him. But when the Legion of Boom went away, he really picked it up as a push the ball down the field. Had one of the best deep balls in the NFL, very accurate, kind of a headache to keep contained. You could ask our good buddy Alonso how to keep tabs on Russell Wilson when he's playing with the Seahawks. He's a 49ers fan. It's a frustrating thing. He's not the same dude anymore. But I think he was at one point a top five quarterback, and it just maybe it's a credit to Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. They saw a couple of red flags. This guy's going to be on the decline. The Broncos couldn't catch that, and that's why scouting departments are crucial. They keep like a franchise like the Ravens. They are on top of it right away. They make sure that everybody's on point, and if you're about to regress, man, they'll get rid of you. Same thing with the Patriots. Same thing with the 49ers. Teams like that know how to win for a long time. They're on top of it. But that's a good debate for another day. But let's get to some actual games this weekend.
Yeah, before we move on, Gilbert, we got some promos to get out of the way here. So if you can go ahead and let the people know that we're
Yeah.
trying to get to Super Bowl Radio Row and how we're going to go about it.
Yeah, we're trying to get to Las Vegas to have a Super Bowl Radio Row, a little spot there, have a bunch of interviews, create content. And we've been fortunate to do it the last couple of years in LA, in Phoenix. We're trying to get to Las Vegas. It's looking good for that for us. We have a couple hurdles to overcome, but we're planning ahead. If you want to help out the Compas, check out the link in the description. It's a PayPal link. It's for donations to help us out with the housing, equipment, just things that help us create better content here on the network, and especially in person that requires more equipment. But no pressure. I know this time of year is hard on everybody financially, and I gave everybody a nice card this Christmas for my family. I cannot hand out a bunch because Mexican families are pretty they're sizable, so that's why I can't give gifts individually. Or you have a game like a White Elephant, or you have Secret Santa, and you kind of go around that way. But anyways, back to the point. If you're watching one of our lives, you can see on the bottom right corner of the chat, it says a super sticker, a super chat, a super thanks. Those are another good way to help us out here on the network. But again, no pressure. And yeah, all you could do, or the best thing you could do, is keep watching. Maybe leave a comment like Nancy and Delbert right here. I see Delbert with a comment. Subscribe as well. That'd be big. Maybe subscribe and you engage and you like and you comment. Goes a long way.
Yeah, and just to the comments, Nancy, we'll get to your comments, the other ones that you have as we go along, depending. We'll talk Chargers, we'll talk Broncos again, and Ravens. So don't think I'm forgetting about your questions there. And Delbert, I think he's saying that, just to get to his comment here, Gilbert, real quick. I think he's talking about where Russell Wilson might end up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, so either Arizona, I would think Pittsburgh would take a chance on him, and same thing with the New York Giants. I mean, they might be done. They have, who knows if Daniel Jones is going to be ready to go. So yeah, I mean that's something. In the Bears, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with the Bears. Are they going to trade Justin Fields? Are they going to draft the quarterback? So there's a lot of uncertainty with a lot of those teams.
Yeah, I think the Arizona one, either they stick to Kyler Murray or they draft a quarterback. So I'm gonna take that one out. I'm intrigued by the Steelers. I don't know about what's gonna happen with Mike Tomlin sticking around, but he likes winners, and Russell Wilson has won a lot. And can Russell Wilson offer more than Kenny Pickett? It's not a big ask, he's not doing that well. But again, it's not like Russell was having a great year either. So I can see that one. The Giants, I think they might either draft a quarterback or stick with Daniel Jones, or they just bring him on as a backup to push Daniel Jones. Like, hey, if you're not ready to go, man, it's not Tom DeVito and it's not Tyrod Taylor. It's Russell Wilson who had a Super Bowl. So maybe that one I won't rule it out. Then the Bears, I think they're stuck with either not shouldn't say stuck, but Justin Fields is a good quarterback. but their scenario, that's where I was trying to say stuck. It's Justin Fields or draft a quarterback, Caleb Williams or Drake May. I think that's why I count out the Bears and the Cardinals, but I like the other two, especially the Steelers. You never know what the Giants are.
Yeah, and Nancy's helping us out by mentioning
Yeah,
the merch too. So
I
there
always
you go,
forget that one.
Gilbert. She's helping me produce the show. Shout out to you, Nancy.
Yeah, another link in the description. Certifiedcompas.shop. That is the website to buy merch. Compas on the beat. You like that cool little logo above my head? There you go. You can have a hoodie with that, and you can have a shirt or a hat. So check that out. That also goes a long way to helping the network grow. But yeah, if you can't find the link in the description, certifiedcompas.shop. And also, I got the other URL or the domain. What is it? I'm trying to remember. It wasn't as catchy as that one. Compasonthebeatmerch.com. So we got two avenues to get there. So Nancy, we appreciate that. To have more promos there. But I think we're now on to
We're ready. Yes,
headline game of the week, right?
yes, headline game of the week. We're gonna start off with Ravens and Dolphins, Gilbert. And before you start, we have a question from Nancy from earlier, and she said, "Did you see Lamar trip
Yeah.
by the Rev, and how by the Rev? How does that work?"
Yeah, I was actually wondering too. They didn't really like say, "Hey, let's do it over," or let's kind of do it. Like I don't know. You can't even flag that. It's kind of one of these things where like,
The
well, it's not.
ref, the way it was interpreted is that the ref is part of the field. So
Yeah,
there's nothing you can do in that situation. The ref can get
yeah.
out of the way there. Unfortunately, they're part of the field. If they get ran over on a run there, they're gonna get run over. If they look, they help out with the block where they're in the way. That they're just in. That's they're part of the act. They're part of the field. So that's how you have to take it.
Well, the crappy part was it was an intentional grounding from the end zone, so that led to a safety, and it's kind of like, what the hell? Like the guy was in the way, but and it is kind of debatable too, like what the safety still would have occurred without the guy being away. And Lamar Jackson being so elusive, he might have kind of figured out a way to get out of there, or even maybe to throw the ball to an actual receiver and to avoid the 2 points. But you don't see that every day, and that definitely was pretty unique right there.
I'm just glad we didn't have to talk about it because imagine if this would have been a win by the 49ers where they win by 2 points and everybody's talking about that, safety. So I'm just glad we didn't have to talk about it because the referees, he knew he wasn't supposed to be there. I mean, it happens. What is he supposed to do? He's trying to get out of the way, and Lamar Jackson is super fast, so that's part of it, unfortunately. But I'm just glad we didn't have to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, let's hope for a better game for sorry, not Rams, Ravens versus Dolphins, and I haven't gotten much right this year, but last week I told you, Victor, maybe we're all hyping up this Ravens 49ers. We keep hyping up these games on a weekly basis, and some of these games, the schedule makers did a good job stacking the good teams against each other in the back end of the schedule. Like after week 8 or 9, I feel like it's a showdown every single week, but there hasn't been like a really like fun game. Like besides Bills Eagles, it wasn't even a Sunday night football game, but it was a standalone game, 125. That was really good. Rams and the Ravens were not a game that was super hyped up, but that was one of the best games of the year. So we haven't really got it. Actually, Dolphins Cowboys was kind of intriguing, but pretty slow for a few quarters. I like the back end of the fourth quarter. That was pretty fun. How the Cowboys responded with a drive and the Dolphins came back and answered. So it hasn't been these games haven't been really delivering, that well. But let's see what Ravens versus Dolphins do. And you know what? I lifted the pretender label from the Dolphins. I think they impressed me, and some people are saying why. Like they beat another pretender, the Cowboys. Like how much do you really show if you're beating a Cowboys team that can't really play on the road? And I go to the defense. I think the defense has been balling out. That to me feels like they're a complete team. They know how to run the football. You know how to run the football. That's good in January. That's good in December. And I think somebody even asked Mike McDaniel today, like, "Hey, there's a narrative out there. You guys are pretty soft." And he's like, "Whoa, we run the football. We know how to rush the passer. Like, what are you talking about?" So, for a bit, it was more like they're a finesse team. They weren't really a physical team. And I think that game without Tyreek Hill a couple of weeks back maybe it helped Tua like go a different route. Not obviously like especially that game where the Cowboys had a great game plan to have Tyreek Hill, in front of them, not like burning them for 40 yards down the field. It was a lot of I think he had 9 receptions for 99 yards. So what was that? Like 10 yards per reception. That's pretty good for most people, but not for Tyreek Hill. So they did a good job with that. But then the injuries are a little concerning too. I think Mostert's dealing with something. Jalen Waddle is dealing with an ankle. So, those are two big pieces for this offense here. So that's why I think maybe the Ravens could have a big day. But I just wanted to spend my time here real quick to saying I was impressed with the Dolphins. A lot of people are not. But I think they might surprise the Ravens. But we got to see more on the injury report there. But obviously the Ravens really made a statement on Monday Night Football. They beat down the 49ers. And I'll let you take it away on the Ravens if you want, Victor.
Yeah, let me just go back to the Dolphins and what Mike McDaniel said. And the reason people say that they're soft is because yeah, they run the ball, Gilbert, but they run a lot of it going to the outside. They're not in between the gap kind of runners, and you know it's for a reason. That's how, because they don't have a really good offensive line. And one of the things you're gonna see here, as I brought up last week, is with the Dolphins, they run the same kind of concepts that the 49ers run offensively. So you're going to get a lot of the outside running. They're going to try to get Mostert and A Chain on the outside, and then you'll have some of your fullbacks run, in between the tackles. Where I'm interested to see what happens is Kyle Hamilton going to play in this game, because what Kyle Hamilton does for the Ravens, it pretty much solidifies what they do on defense. So when you start with Kyle Hamilton, it's not like the Ravens are running something where it's something that you don't see at any other team. The Ravens run a zone defense. But when you have a freak like Kyle Hamilton, it allows you to do so much. You have those two linebackers in Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith. You have veterans, as your edge rusher in Kyle Bayanoy, and you have um, Jadavian Clowney. So you know, I'm interested to see, first of all, does Kyle Hamilton play in this game? Because then that'll kind of predicate what happens with this Dolphins and how they attack. Because the Dolphins love to attack you in the middle there. And one of the things I saw last season, as we saw, like everybody was like, "Well, is this Dolphins team for real?" And and then last season, so they go up to the 49ers and they get punched in the mouth, and they're never able to recover after that, Gilbert. And the Ravens just did that. They punched the 49ers in the mouth, and we'll see if the 49ers are able to recover. Now, can the Ravens do that to the Dolphins here? That's going to be my big question.
Yeah, and like that's like a good point. Like the Mike McDaniel coming from the 49er tree with Kyle Shanahan, like is that an advantage for the Ravens because they've already seen it and they're about to do kind of something similar 2 weeks in a row, or maybe that's good film for Mike McDaniel because okay, that's how they played it. Let's tweak it here and there, and like you mentioned, there's some key injuries on both sides too. But I'm done doubting the Ravens. I am impressed with the Dolphins. I think they can make some noise here. But the Ravens, going being at home too, and then Lamar Jackson playing outstanding. And I know people were all tired of the MVP conversation, and now Tua's back in it supposedly. So maybe another game for Lamar to kind of say, hey, I beat another MVP candidate and Tua Tagovailoa. But Lamar's playing great. They have a good kicker. They have good coaches, so they're a pretty complete team. The Ravens, I feel like, and also it's like you got to deal with the how unique Lamar Jackson is, but you also got to deal with the unique defense of Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. Like if you haven't seen it a couple of times, it's kind of like, all right, how are they going to do it? And I thought the Rams put a good blueprint out there because this Ravens defense is kind of built on confusing quarterbacks and taking away in the passing game. And if you're trying to figure out what's out there, you're playing a guessing game. If you're just making it easy and running the football and you're having success with the football over and over again, you take them away from their head of games and things like that. So that's why Mostert could be big if he's not able to play. But you do have Achan, you have Jeff Wilson as well. So, like you mentioned, Victor, they're not a physical team, but they kind of go on the outside. That's more of a Kyle Shanahan thing there. But it's a good matchup. I just hope everybody's healthy and it could be a good game. And it's for the number one seed, so it's gonna feel like a playoff like setting. But I'll end it there. And I think the Ravens are definitely the number one team in the NFL after what they did to the 49ers. And a quick reminder here, if you're watching, you want to talk fantasy football, you want to talk about NFL betting, or just have a takeaway from the NFL in general, we want to hear, we want to see it on the live chat here. We're going to answer it. So shout out to Nancy and Delbert for getting it going. But just a quick reminder there.
Yeah, and then just going back to what we've seen from the Ravens, and one of the things where we've seen them not be as good, and one of the ways you can beat this team, because one of the things that really has stood out this season, Gilbert, I saw this stat the other day where the Ravens have led at the 2 minute warning fourth quarter of the all season. There's only been like where it's happened before. It's been like the 72 Dolphins and like Super Bowl team. So we know how good this team is. Outside of them pretty much blowing leads against the Colts, the Steelers, and the Browns, this team should be undefeated at this point. But that's not how the NFL works. But just going back to the Rams, you need to run the ball against this Ravens defense between the tackles. That's the way you're successful. And then you got to play a clean game, because otherwise, Gilbert, they've blown out every team that they face, whether it's been the Lions, the Seahawks,
Yeah.
the 49ers. And so if you want to stay in this game, if you're the Dolphins, you're going to need to play a clean game with Tua, and you're going to need that defense with Vic Fangio to stop Lamar Jackson. And this game is part of my best bets, so I can give it to you now, or we can wait for it till we get there.
We could do it now. For me, I'm gonna take the Ravens minus 3.5. I think I've seen enough there. I do want to see what happens with Vic Fangio against Lamar Jackson. Vic Fangio is known for not really caring. Well, I shouldn't say not caring, but he prefers more of taking away the passing game, and then people could run on him a little bit. And the Ravens like to run a lot. Maybe that could be a disadvantage for Vic Fangio here. But I am impressed with his defense. It took a while because they didn't have Jalen Ramsey. They got the injury with Jalen Phillips, but then they recover. They got Bradley Chubb playing well. They got Van Ginkel, Van Ginkel balling out too. So I can't wait for that matchup, but I'm gonna still go and take the Ravens minus 3.5. And yeah, and Nancy's correct here. That's the good thing about the Ravens defense. They know how to confuse you. They know how to create pressure. They're unique. It's not you really don't know what you're getting on every single play. So that could really throw off too, especially you don't have Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, and I mean, I made. Let me go back and just make sure that what So this is one of my best bets, and I made it my number three. I like the Dolphins to keep it close because it's 3.5. So I'm taking the Dolphins plus 3.5 here. I just think that you have a Ravens team who's coming off a high of beating the best team in the league to that point, and they played on Monday night. We know how short rest can. Then you're having to travel back to the East Coast. You have a Dolphins team who's, finally got that signature win, and now they're looking for that second one. And as you said, this is where the AFC is pretty much for the number one seed in the AFC. So I like the Dolphins to keep it close. I still think the Ravens win, but that 3.5 is too enticing not to take, Gilbert.
Yeah, that's why I stayed away from this one because I could definitely see a close game, but I could definitely see the Ravens winning by 6, and it's still a close game. I'm expecting something good here, but yeah, I really don't know for this one. So you're going bold with the Dolphins covering here, but I'm not mad at it. I definitely see. I feel like they're going to play better. I think there could be one of these games where they lose, but also to prove a lot of people like, hey, you see how they hung with them and the 49ers couldn't. Stop calling them pretenders. So for a while they got annoying. They were on my list, but I took them off because they've been playing better defensively and they beat the Cowboys. And I'm one of the few people apparently who likes the Cowboys. But I'm ready to move on to is it
Yeah, the only
Cowboys
thing I
Lions?
was gonna say, Gilbert, before we move on, I'm kind of disappointed that this is a 10 a.m. Pacific game.
Yeah.
I would have thought this would be a later game, but I think they wanted to save the Cowboys game for later on. So I think they did that on purpose, which a credit to the TV people. They know what they're doing. All right, Gilbert, let's move on, as you said, to our next item here, and that's our page two, top our second tier games to watch, and we're going to Cowboys and Lions.
Yeah.
Go ahead and kick us off here.
This is actually a Saturday game, kind of random, but whatever. They wanted to have a game every single day of the week, but I'm not one of my pet peeves. But it's a Saturday game. It's a good game though. Cowboys versus Lion, and it's good in a sense too that we get the real Cowboys because they're at home, but I think it's a 15 game home winning streak. And then you get the Lions who play much better indoors on turfs, which is the Cowboys have in Dallas. So I saw the total line is pretty high, but I think the over could hit. It's 53 and a half. I don't think I remember seeing 53 and a half in any game earlier this year. It could be maybe 52, but 53 is pretty high. But there's a reason for that. These teams are very explosive indoors and away from grass and in the comfort home of the Cowboys. So let's see what they do here. And I'll start with the Lions. Good on them to finally break that streak of not having a division title. They clinched it last week. The Vikings made them earn it. NFC North champions for the first time, and in the first time in 30 years from the NFC Central. Uh, but they've really turned a corner defensively. 17 points against the Broncos, and then for the most part, they made the Vikings one dimensional. Yeah, Nick Mullins had 400 yards, which I can't believe, mostly because he had Justin Jefferson saying, "All right, YOLO Jefferson, make me look good," and that's why 4 interceptions occurred. So, and then I'm blanking on his name, but I'll look him up in a bit. But the safety there, brother of the former Obi from the Raiders, he really stood out. He had like
Mo-
two, yeah,
no, go ahead.
yeah, I forgot. I don't want to butcher his name, but uh, third-year player, and he had 2 sacks and an interception to end that game. So you got more playmakers on defense. Maybe Charlie Garner Johnson returns too because they need help on defensively. Offensively, they're great. Jameer Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, and Jared Goff and Dave Montgomery. They're balling out there. So I can't wait to see what they do with the Cowboys. It could be a close one right here.
Yeah, I think it will be, and I think part of it, as you said, is the Lions' offense. And we talked about it on House of Horns how the Lions have like they're gonna beat you one way, and that's offensively because there's not a lot you can expect from this defense, and part of it is because of injuries, as you talked about before. But I think when it comes to the Lions, the reason I like them is just because of what you can do with Ben Johnson in that offense. And I'll go back to this when it comes to the Cowboys. I think part of the problem with the Cowboys and their issues that they've had lately is the fact that they just don't have any run stoppers. Once Hankins went down a couple weeks ago, Gilbert, everybody's been running on them. You saw that where the Bills pretty much ran on them, and now even the Dolphins. And so, if I'm the Lions, I use those two-headed running backs with Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs, and I just run the ball on the Cowboys because one of the things, the Cowboys are 7-0 this season at home. They've been destroying teams at home offensively. And we know the Cowboys are going to score points against that bad Lions defense. But I think where this game is going to come down to is the Lions' ability to run the ball between the tackles against that bad, defense up the middle for the Cowboys.
Yeah, the Lions safety Melifano. There you go. I got it right. I don't want to butcher his name, but yeah, he stood out as a safety playmaker last week in the Vikings victory for the Lions. And you're right on the Cowboys' interior defense. Since injuries occurred, they're going back to last year when they couldn't stop the run here. And Nancy does not believe in the Cowboys. And I can't disagree because they can't win on the road. They can't win on grass, and that should be a pretender right there. So but they're a good team, and you don't win 10 games for nothing. And they've been doing it at home. That's why I think playing the Lions at home could make them the favorite here. And I'll just kind of just go there. I think the Cowboys win this game here because they are at home. But I'm going to take the Lions +6 here. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a shootout, and I don't feel 100% confident. But if you want to take the over, take the over because these two teams know how to score. Like I mentioned, indoors on turf. And yeah, if you're the Lions, run that freaking football. And Jameer Gibbs has just been he's been fun to watch. And I was critical of the Lions for drafting him number 12, and it's been working out. He's been playing better than Bijan Robinson with the Falcons, and it matters on your situation and where you land there. So both offenses know how to click. Again, indoors, so expect the high scoring affair. But I'll take the Cowboys to win, and I'll take the Lions to cover here. What do you think, Vic?
Yeah, I'm with you here. This is also one of my best bets. I have it as my number two bet of the in terms of confidence. I have the Lions +6 here. I like I said, I just think this game's gonna actually stay close. The Lions, since they got their offensive line back healthy, have given Jared Goff time to be able to run
Yeah.
this offense. And I thought the game where he might struggle was last week, just because we've seen what Brian Flores does to quarterbacks. He's been blitzing in his career. He's owned Jared Goff, and Goff played really well against the Vikings last week. And so at this point, now that he has his offensive line back healthy, I just don't see how you stop this offense right now. Like I said, I think it's going to be a close game. I just think the Cowboys probably pull this game out, but I think it's going to be a high scoring affair. And I'm with you. If you love the over on this game, I'm with you. You should bet it, because I think it's going to be, and it's going to be a lot of points scored in this game.
That kind of that that we talking about Jared Goff, that summarizes how good this offense is, because when you're playing Brian Flores, they're going to be blitz or they're going to put 8 guys in coverage, and for Jared Goff, it's kind of like, sure, pick either one, because I could just dump it out to Jameer Gibbs, or you want to go cover 8 downfield. I got Sam Laporta and Amon St. Brown for quick slants here in intermediate game. Like, we don't have to go bombs away here. Sorry, Jameson Williams, you're gonna have to wait for another game. But it was just such a matchup, a game that where the Lions could do whatever they wanted against Brian Flores there. So I think we both had success on that one when it was -3 Lions there. But it was close though. It was a good game, and yeah, I think we're in agreement here. Cowboys win and the Lions cover. But what's number 2 here for the page 2?
We're gonna go to a potential playoff matchup. Well, not a but two teams that are looking to get into the playoffs. You have the 8-7 Colts, and you have the all of a sudden hot Raiders. Winners of 2 in a row. They beat down the Chargers, and then they go on the road and pull the upset on Christmas Day over the Chiefs. Where do you want to start here?
Yeah, Raiders. Stop wasting time, Mark Davis. Just make Antonio Pierce the head coach. I get it. You gotta do the whole interview people. Make sure. Yeah, if you want to swing big for Belichick and Jim Harbaugh, sure, do the interviews, but don't mess it up with Antonio Pierce, who's right there, ready to go. Uh, um, and I get it that he kind of just said F it, let's see what we got here, and made it work. And he still has to install an offense in the offseason, run a training camp, things like that, and be part of a draft. Yeah, you don't know what to expect there, but he has a player's belief. The star players, like Devontae Adams, is not he's not angry anymore. Max Crosby's there believing in him, smoking cigars. We'll see what happens with Josh Jacobs, but he knows how to run the football. He knows how to let people do their jobs. And if you don't want to pay Josh Jacobs, Zamir White looking good too. So he has his fingerprints all over here, and he's doing it in a way where he's not being too much. Okay, let me be the guy who makes you believe, pump you up here. If you need to be disciplined, I could do that too. But over there, Patrick Graham, go run your defense, and that defense has been pretty solid all year. But it got better when Josh McDaniels left for a reason. And when's the last time the Raiders have a defense this good? So I just wanted to kind of give love to Antonio Pierce there. Hopefully, he keeps the job there. But I'll be quick here. I'll take the Raiders. It's a tough one to pick here versus the Colts, because the Colts are at home, and like you mentioned many times before, Victor, they play better at home. I don't know what the hell that was last week against the Falcons. How do you lose 29-10 to Taylor Heineke? So the Colts are fighting for the playoffs. I think the Raiders could go in there and make it interesting, play good defense, and we'll see if Aiden O'Connell needs to throw the football, and can he answer? Well, they had 63 points not too long ago, so we'll see what happens in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you in terms of, I think this game's going to come down to what defense is able to turn the offense over, whether it's the Raiders defense turning getting Minshew to turn the ball over, or it's the Colts doing it with Aiden O'Connell. Because you know we know what to expect from both of these defenses. I think one of the things that has been a shining light for the Colts has been their offense. They've gotten Jonathan Taylor back now, and they've been good enough. Like, they play really well against the Steelers, and then as you mentioned, they put up a stinker against the Falcons on the road. This is a way better team at home for whatever reason, we've talked about. I think they've scored over 25 points in every game at home. Their their defense is opportunistic. You have linebackers like Franklin and Speed, EJ Speed, who just go sideline to sideline. And then with the Raiders, you've now seen the impact that a guy like Jack Jones has had on that secondary. It's allowed guys to be more aggressive. You have your pass rush, you know, you're using your if you're when you're the Raiders have been successful because of their pass rush plus, you know, that secondary. And so I think for me that's the biggest key, Gilbert, is what happens, which defense is able to turn the offense over. And so for me, I'm with you. I'm going with the Raiders. I think right now they're all in on Antonio Pierce, that team. You can see the way they chase the ball. One of the things that I've been kind of disappointed in a lot of the football experts as I've been going around the league the last couple days when they talked about this the Raiders and Chiefs game, is they're talking more about what the Chiefs did wrong, and they're not giving the Raiders defense enough credit. This is the same Raiders defense that went into Miami, Gilbert, who had hung 70 points.
Yeah.
They held him to 20 points, and they turned Tua and the Miami Dolphins over 3 times. I don't understand what this Raiders defense needs to do for people to start taking them seriously and start blaming the offenses like the Dolphins and the Chiefs. So I think this is a big, if you want to stay in the, like, one of the things I saw is the Raiders can still make the playoffs if they win their next two. And, you know, and the, you know, like, you have the Bengals are probably going to lose to the Chiefs, but you never know. And they still have a chance to win the division, which is still crazy to me,
Yeah.
Gilbert.
Yeah, and going off of the comment here from Delbert, yeah, they could probably win out, and AP does have this team playing out of their minds. I don't know about Russell Wilson there. I'm sure they should stay away from Russell Wilson for the Raiders there. But yeah, I could definitely see him, winning and seeing what happens with the playoff. I think it might be a little tough for them, and then they're gonna need some help there. And you're right on the whole people focusing on the Chiefs, broken offense, but when the Raiders got those two defensive touchdowns, that was a span of 7 seconds. It was the first half. There was a lot of football left, and they couldn't do anything. They couldn't. It was they got that one touchdown to kind of make it like a one possession game, and then they go back and they run the football with Zamir White for I think he ripped off like a 44-yard run to pretty much end it. But they had all game, all second half to make something happen. Instead, Kelsey's over there complaining about not being on the field on a special teams trick play. Mahomes is screaming to his offensive lineman. You know, Marquez Valdez-Scantling doing the same thing that Kadarius Toney did, getting an offsides penalty on offense. So they're not disciplined. They're not trustworthy playmakers. Kelsey's taking a couple step backs. Frustration has gotten the best of Mahomes, and then now Reed has to step in and say, "Hey, don't give him his helmet back. Like, this guy's not even on his mind right now. He's not even in the game right now with his head." So credit to Reed for doing that, because I think he's gone too long when letting these star players just being frustrated and point the fingers and just soak and pout. Like, you're trying to get another Super Bowl ring here. So it's falling apart there, but the headaches occurred because of what the Raiders defense have been doing all year, and they've been on my radar from the start here with what Patrick Graham has done. But they went from being like a nice unit, like a feisty unit, to being one of the best teams in the NFL. Like, I'm not saying the top 5, but they're definitely top 10, or even the last. You want to talk about the last few weeks here where it's since Pierce took over, like, they're definitely top 10. So I'm with you on there on the Raiders here. And Nancy, she's pulling for Shane Steichen here on the Colts, formerly OC of the Chargers. That was a big regret there for the Chargers to not take him and hire him. But I guess hindsight's 2020. But that's on the Chargers for not knowing what they had. There's a reason why Anthony Lynn made him the OC after they fired Ken Whisenhunt. There's a reason why Sirianni went and hired him, because they know they've been around that guy, and I guess the ownership didn't know it.
Yeah, and just if we're going off of what, the right side of this matchup, Gilbert, it is, I think it's Colts minus 3.5, and then the over under is 43.5. And then I'm going, this is going to be my number 5 here. This is the one I have the most confidence in, and I'm going with the under here. It's 43.5. like I said, with the way these defenses are playing, I just don't have any trust in Aiden O'Connell or Minshew to put up points in this matchup. So I think it's going to be a low scoring game.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me. I'm obviously I'm taking the Raiders, so it'll be money line. So plus 3.5 would be nice too. But I don't know. Like the Colts do play better at home in terms of scoring points, and then what if the Raiders defense gets a couple of more defensive takeaway touchdowns too? Like it adds up. So it's kind of a scary one here. But I get what you're saying. I'll take the under just to be a little different, but I'm not confident about it. But what we got next?
We're gonna go our future water cooler storylines. This is where we give three storylines that people are gonna be talking about come Monday. If you have any, go ahead and let us know what yours are. But we're gonna get started with Gilbert here, and he has one that has to do with the Panthers and the Jaguars.
Yeah, the Jaguars are on my annoying list. They're there with the Steelers and the Falcons, and the Jaguars have just, really fallen apart. They kind of remind me of the Titans a year ago, where the Titans were actually leading the AFC South, and then they lost like 7 games in a row. Like the Jaguars are kind of heading that way, leading the AFC South, and now they got a 4-game losing streak. And I get that Lawrence is toughing it out and he's trying to play. I don't know. I don't know if he will play this week actually, but he has an ankle injury, a shoulder injury. He was dealing with a potential concussion. And he got cleared in time for last week's game. But then when he's playing out there, he just turned the ball over. He has 8 takeaways or 8 turnovers in the last 3 weeks here. So I'm not confident in Trevor Lawrence or anything the Jaguars are doing. They can't run the football. Christian Kirk is hurt. The defense is taking like 3 or 4 steps back. And yeah, they're playing the Panthers. The Panthers could barely score points, but they look nice. Like I'm actually, it's gotten to a point. Maybe I shouldn't think this way, but it's gotten to a point where I'm rooting for Bryce Young because it's been so bad for him. And he's a smaller dude, and people want to write him off as #1 pick. But like it's all about surroundings there, and he doesn't have the best situation. So it was nice for him to kind of have a game where he's balling out and doing some good throws. He did a lot of good things there. I get the Packers defense. Joe Barry's taking a lot of heat. Like he's not the best coordinator, so maybe that's why. But I'm not gonna go as far as say the Jaguars are gonna lose to the Panthers. But I would not be surprised if they do. So I hadn't even checked the spread here, Victor. But I will whatever it is, I'll take the Panthers and I'll see the Jaguars struggle once again. Plus 6.5, Carolina. I'll take that. But this will be my prediction that the Panthers will push the Jaguars, maybe even win.
Yeah, I'm a little worried because I have the Jaguars defense, and I have like my option of I'm in, like you said, I'm in the championship game for the fantasy title,
Mm,
and one of those teams is I got the Jaguars way ahead of time because I looked
yeah.
at this matchup with the Panthers, but now I'm scared because if you look at the Panthers and what they've done the last 2 weeks, they beat
Yeah.
the Falcons at home, and then same thing. Everybody picked the Packers defense last week, and they allowed 30 points. And I'll go back to something that Nancy said because she mentioned this, and I was waiting for it to bring up. But it's been a crazy week. Like Jair Alexander got suspended for not clearly speaking on the coin toss, and I mean I've never seen that. That's kind of a weird thing. So that's crazy.
Yeah, he wasn't supposed to be there, and he wasn't even a captain. He's like, "Well, I'm from Charlotte, so I'll just come out here and then not even just be next to his team. He went out and spoke like, "You're not even the captain. What are you doing here?" And then he says, "I'll take defense." Like it's not that. It's either elect to receive or defer. And he almost gave the Panthers the ball twice, one the kickoff and then the second half kickoff. But then luckily the officials were saying, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" So that was such a mess there. And yeah, Vic, I'm not here to give you advice for fantasy football because you're doing much better than I am. But seeing what the Panthers did last week to the Packers should be concerning. And I know you're concerned. But
Yes.
then again, the Panthers had 9 points 2 weeks ago, and that was enough to beat the Falcons. So they're
Yeah.
a weird team. But then again, the Jaguars have been really falling apart defensively and offensively.
Yeah, no, and just to go back to what we were talking about with your storyline here, and I'm just gonna say this. I'm a little concerned for Trevor Lawrence just because you know, I don't think he's not only getting the coaching, he's not being developed well, but I'm also concerned about some of the moves that Trent Baalke has made. And, we saw what he did with the 49ers and some of the ups and downs he had there before he was fired, and then he ends up with the Jaguars. And he got a lot of crap for, the contract that he gave Christian Kirk. And, Christian Kirk has been a big piece to this puzzle as well. We've seen him be a big key to this offense, but there's a lot of moving parts here, Gilbert, that just don't fit. And I get it. Everybody's gonna point to Trevor Lawrence. He was a number one pick. He was a guy that everybody looked at as, you know, the Andrew Luck type of quarterback prospect. And I get it. He hasn't lived up to the expectations. It's not his fault that this franchise decided to hire a terrible coach, a college coach who, set him back a couple years. And then you
Yeah.
bring in Doug Peterson, and then you get to the playoffs after the collapse by the Titans, as you just mentioned. But then you just go back and you just look at some of the moves, some of the people they paid. It's just like, and then Doug Peterson, he decides to let Press Taylor be the offensive coordinator instead of him being the one that runs the offense. So there's just a lot of things. I just feel like those two teams that played in that wild card game between the Chargers and the Jaguars, it just seems like that was the apex for them, and then everything else has just been, poop since then. And I don't know what happened. I either both of them got cursed after that game, but it's just been just a downhill since both of those teams played.
Yeah, it's been a mess there, and again, like I mentioned, maybe they lose out. I don't know. I have no faith in the Jaguars. And real quick, Athir, I'm glad you made it. You don't need to apologize. All good. And we already talked about your Ravens. You're a little late, but I'm glad we're here. But let me give you one more for my predictions for water cooler storyline, and I'll be quick here. I guess I made a room with Fernando. He was on the bandwagon before me, but I've been on the Bucks bandwagon for about a couple of weeks now, because I was hesitant to see if maybe Baker Mayfield will have that drop off because it's a roller coaster. But I'm like, hey, he's being well coached over there. Dave Canela's doing well, or Canales, sorry, Canales Channels. There you go. Dave Canales doing a great job there. Improving that offense when they were pretty much broken with Tom Brady with his last year. Couldn't run the football, couldn't protect them. Now they're protecting Baker Mayfield. They got Rashad White running the football pretty well. A lot of people love Rashad White in fantasy football, and I'm like, no, like I'm staying away from that guy. I saw that terrible offensive line, that terrible running game last year, and it took a while actually. It was like for a month. I'm like, okay, I made the right call. He's been doing well now, and that's because of Dave Channels there. So, and then you got Baker Mayfield playing the best football of his career. I think anything from the Browns, or I hit that one game with the Rams and obviously the Panthers. So, Mike Evans just being, just staying in his prime forever. It feels like. And then you have Chris Godwin too. So I think the Bucks handle business, dropping out 30 points on the Saints. The Saints also on my annoying list. Terrible defense, chaos offensively. So give me the Bucks here to beat the Saints, and I'll give you the spread in a bit here while you give me your points, Vic.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say. I mean, who would have thought that three former Rams quarterbacks could be in the playoffs? You have Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, and
Yeah.
now even Matthew Stafford in the playoffs. And I know a lot of people are gonna probably say, "Yeah, Sean McVay, didn't do much there," but with Baker Mayfield, but and you shouted him out, and Fernando, he was right on it with Baker Mayfield, and he said he needs to go somewhere. Maybe he should come back to the Rams, learn a little bit more. But he might have learned something from the Rams, and he's been able to take it to the Buccaneers, and it just shows. I mean, they were still a stacked roster after Brady left. They just needed to fix their offensive line, which they did. I don't understand the signing by the Chiefs for Donovan Smith. He was one of the big issues of why, Tom Brady decided to retire instead of come back. And I just kudos to Baker Mayfield, man, because a lot of people had him gone out of the league, and he's been able to resurrect with the Bucks.
Yeah, no, I didn't even think about that, the whole former Rams thing there. So, yeah, they're playing great, and even defensively with Todd Bowles doing a couple things there. I know people are not the biggest fans of Todd Bowles because he's conservative, doesn't really go for on fourth down, kind of an old school guy, but he's letting his OC do the job there, and he's handling the defense. So, Real quick, Buccaneers minus 2.5. Give me the Bucks to cover and clinch this division. Are you with that?
Yeah, I'm with you as well. And then I'm gonna get to a couple of things here from before I give you mine from Nancy. I'll also give you her storyline before I go. But she wants to know: do you guys think Derek Carr is a scrub?
I think he's an average quarterback, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't think he's I think he's you've seen the best of him is behind him now. And everybody kept saying, "Well, just give him a good defense and then we'll see what the real Derek Carr does." And he's has a good defense and he still is struggling out there with turnovers. So, and then let me give you her storyline. She says the Chiefs will lose again, so to the Bengals.
Miami
So
Bengals, yeah.
yeah, there we go. All right, Gilbert, let me give you mine. And I mine has to do with Miles Garrett. And on they play on Thursday night. I don't think a lot of teams have seen this Browns team. They're 10-5. Joe. We got to preview Rams and Browns before their matchup. I got to see that Browns team, uh, the whole game. And I think the most impressive thing about them is not only their defense but also their offense. And then once I saw Joe Flacco, I was like, okay, what are we getting with Joe Flacco here? And he was slinging the ball. I was like, wow, he looks like Joe Flacco from the Ravens in 2014, and he hasn't stopped. And we talked about it on the post game show of that Rams game. If the Browns stick with Joe Flacco, they're gonna make the playoffs. Sure enough, they've been winning since that. I think they haven't lost a game since that Rams game. And it just for me, Miles Garrett didn't do anything in that game against the Rams. He was coming off a banged up shoulder against the Broncos, and so he didn't have any pressures. But I think now everybody's going to get to see him on Thursday Night Football. They're going to get to see how good this Browns defense is, and Miles Garrett's going to have a big game. I'm saying he has 3 sacks. He's going to have a sack fumble with a strip sack fumble and a touchdown recovery. He'll run it in for a touchdown, and then he just becomes the undisputed defensive player of the year. Gilbert.
Yeah, it's kind of been a weird year. Like how we have so many people for the MVP, like defensive player of the year. It's like nobody's really trying to take that one. I feel like, or maybe it could be Max Crosby, like you mentioned. Nobody's giving him attention, but the Browns are very dominant defense. But then they had like 3 or 4 games where like, how did they get beat down by the Broncos or the Rams light them up? That's okay. That's not understandable what happened to the Ravens. But then they had a couple other games where like even the Ravens let them up to a bit there for
The Colts.
the
It was a
Colts
high
too.
score.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the other one. That's the one I was trying to think of. So they've had their moments where like they kind of get beat a lot, but they've had some injuries with Denzel Ward. So I think once the secondary, like that secondary, when they're healthy, they're the best secondary in the NFL. I'll give them that for sure. And then when you got Miles Garrett and you put in pressure, you make that secondary their life easier. So I think they're number 2 to the Ravens. Some people want to call the Browns number 1 defensively. But I'm agree with you here. If Miles Garrett puts it on prime time, beats down the Jets here, um, I think he'll probably wrap it up there because nobody's really standing out on that one, and they'll probably try to give it to somebody with a playoff team, a big name, and I think Miles Garrett fits the description here. And real quick, I'll take the whatever. It's kind of a high line, but I'll take the Browns. Browns minus 7.5. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you on the Browns here, especially after what they did to the Texans. Joe Flacco. I mean, I thought Amari Cooper was done too, man, and he comes out and
Oh
has
yeah,
a 200 and what it was a 260-yard
65,
game,
265.
65-yard game.
You know what's
So
funny, Vic? Is he's so many years removed from his Raider days. I was listening to a podcast and they're like, yeah, Mark Cooper has had 3 games of over 200 yards with 3 different teams. And somebody was like, the third team? What's the third team? It was the Cowboys and the Browns. And like, oh, it's the Raiders. Oh yeah, the Raiders. People just forgot about that.
yeah, because they traded him. They decided to get a first round pick from the Cowboys. That's when Gruden was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna trade Mac Cooper, and I'm gonna get all these draft picks," and they didn't do anything with them. So, yeah, and Athir wants to know why does Fernando hate on my Ravens, not giving them credit. That's
He gave him credit on Monday.
he give
I
him
thought it was gonna be bad, but he wasn't. He actually said, you know what, they were impressive.
Yeah, there you go, Athir. And then he says he's got some stats for you. He says Coach Shanahan has, as an OC, lost 28-3 in the Super Bowl, 10-point lead in the Super Bowl, lost the NFC Championship game. He is not all that when it comes to a big game. Yeah, we've been talking about it. I mean, one of the stats out there that's out there is he's 1-34 when they're trailing by 3 points or more going into the fourth quarter. There's also the one where he's 0 for 38 now, where they're up, where they're down by more than 8 points. The problem with the 49ers and Shanahan is the fact that he doesn't have a quarterback like Matthew Stafford or someone who can bring him back from those type of games. Until he gets that type of coach, it's all scheme. It's all going to be scheme. So he's going to be a coach that plays from ahead, and that's the only way he's going to win. So we have also Gilbert. We have Delbert, the Salgado. He said, going back to the game against the Jags and
Ah,
Panthers, he said this could be a 15-9 game. We're due for one of those. Jags. So he's
hmm.
still going with the Jags, but he's calling it a close game there. And then Nancy wants to know, is Thule up for defensive rookie of the year? I would say Jalen Carter has it in the bag, unless I'm mistaken here, Gilbert.
Maybe is it Devon or Devon? But Devon Witherspoon from the Seahawks having a good year, but it's not like a runaway or it's not like offensive rookie year where it's Puka and CJ and that's about it. But he could be up there. I don't know if he'll win it. Like it's also a popularity contest too. Unfortunately, but I think Tuli could probably make one of these all rookie teams. That's for sure. He's been pretty good, and he's gonna give the Rams, not the Rams, the Chargers flexibility because if you got to cut either Khalil Mack or Joey Bosa, it makes your life easier knowing that you got Tuli on a cheap rookie contract and he's young and he's balling. So I don't know if you'll get it, but he'll make a push.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. I mean, I thought Jalen Carter was a prohibited favorite for
Could
most of
be.
the season, but Devon Witherspoon missed some games there. But
Yeah.
he could be. He's been pretty good, especially if both those teams make. All right, Gilbert. Let's get to our betting locks of the week. Uh, for those who are joining us for the first time, the way we do this is we give five our best five bets of our best bets of the week. We do it by confidence. So we give five, four, three, two, one, depending on how confident we are. We add up the points. So far this season, Gilbert, I am up 89-70. We talked about at the offset of this episode, I've been like really hot lately. Last week, Gilbert, you had a really good week. You got 3 out of 5 right. Let me start off with your number 5 last week was Jaguars Bucks, 42.5 over. You
And
missed
missed
on
it
that
by
one.
half.
Yeah, by a half point. Then you number 4 was Lions Vikings, 47.5 over. You hit that one. You had your number 3 was Lions -3 versus the Vikings. You hit on that one. Your number 2 was Texans +2.5 against the Browns. You missed that one, and then you also missed your number 1, which was Colts +1 versus the Falcons. Mine were my number 5 was Lions -3 against the Vikings. I got that one right. Number 4 was Rams Saints over 44.5. I hit that one. And then my number 3 was Ravens +5.5 against the 49ers. I hit that one. And then I missed on my last two, Colts +1 against the Falcons, and then Cowboys 1.5 against the Dolphins. So let's start off with you, Gilbert. What are your best bets of week 17?
Yeah, I'll try to make it quick here, but from a 5 pointer, I'm gonna keep rolling with the Buccaneers, Bucks -2.5 versus the Saints, like I mentioned earlier. And then I keep seeing a lot of these high total lines with the underdog covering, so I'm gonna have fun here. Number 4, Patriots +13 versus the Bills. The Bills lost to the Patriots, so and the Patriots are playing well, beat the Broncos, beat the Steelers, so I'll take the 13 here. And then my 3 pointer, I'll go Patriots Bills over 40.5 points. The first time these teams played, I think it was like 29-25. Patriots won. Uh Bailey Zappi and Bill O'Brien have something going there with Bill Belichick. And then, Josh Allen and the Bills they could always go for 30. They're a little inconsistent, but they could always go for 30 points. So seems a little low to me, 40.5. And then the 2 pointer, Colts, Raiders. That's where I think I told you earlier. I'm going over 43.5. I just have a feeling they're gonna keep it going. The Raiders get some defensive touchdowns, and I think the Colts are gonna keep their streak going of like 20 plus points. So maybe O'Connell does something too. I like it wasn't that long ago. They got 63 points, so I don't want to write them off just yet. And then number one, Lions +6 versus the Cowboys. I wanted to rank a little higher, but these Cowboys play better at home, so it kind of scares me a bit.
Yeah, I like that we're on opposite ends when it comes to that. What was it? The Raiders and Colts over under. So I like that. But talking about that, that's my number five. We talked about it earlier. Raiders Colts. I'm going 43 and a half under. My number four is Broncos -3 versus the Chargers. Last week I picked against the Chargers, and it was against the Bills. Was it against the Bills? Yeah, and they bid me, and then we talked about it. I didn't think the new coach bump would be there, but I just think with the Broncos, they're going on the road. The Broncos beat them down last time they faced each other, and I know it's Jerry Stidham here against against this Chargers uh defense, but I just don't think that you're also playing in the Mile High. I just think that now that Russell Wilson's out of the way for him, he's going to be able to play well for the Broncos when it comes to Jarrett Stidham. And we saw him do really well with the Raiders last season when he came in for Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I mean, he almost beat the 49ers, and I thought the Raiders were going to re-sign him. Instead, they went with Jimmy G, and it ended up costing McDaniels his job. So there you go. My number three is Dolphins +3.5. We talked about against the Ravens. I like the Dolphins to keep it close, but I like the Ravens to win. My number two is the Lions +6 against the Cowboys, and my number one is Falcons Bears. I'm going with the 38 points, and I'm going with the over there.
Yeah, those are some good ones there, and we agree on the Lions +6 here. So yeah, and then I just kind of gave my we could remove this one now from the dump offs, but I'm with you on the Broncos -3. Sorry, Athir and Nancy. I think maybe Jared Stidham does give them a boost there. I think I'm with you there. Run the offense like Sean Payton wants, and maybe they kind of have a little more boost there. And then now, yeah, the bump there with Gift Smith might wear off in the road game. So I'm with you with the Broncos -3 for that one.
Yeah, and I mean, let's just go over some of the comments here. Athir likes the Jacks big 27-10 there. Uh, he says they mad. My bro Panthers are trash. And
The
then
Jags are trash too, a theory. You
yeah,
have not watched them in a month.
yeah. He's like Bengals plus Jacks minus Bills minus Ravens minus
Bengals, though.
Chargers plus that's mine. There you go. And then Delver Sagado says the Hispanos will never pay hardball money type of cash. And I think
Yeah.
that's been one of the things I've always heard about this, Gilbert. And I've asked you and I've asked Fernando about this. And a lot of the the Spanos don't have Stan Kroenke money. Nobody, not a lot of team owners have that, and this is the with the type of things that you run into when you have a family owned team, is that you part of the problem is why you can't compete sometimes is because you don't have that Stan Kroenke money. And unfortunately for the Chargers, a lot of their money is in escrow. And so in order to pay someone like Justin Herbert, you're having to put that money in escrow. The same thing happens with Mark Davis and the Raiders because they're family owned. Although now that he has a new stadium, that you have no state tax, it's a different situation. But this is a lot of the issues that these teams that don't have a lot of money in our team are owned by their family. It's kind of hard for them to compete, and why you have the Rams in it every year now because they got an owner who's just gonna outspend outspend guys. So
Yeah,
um,
the Chargers are very sensitive about this narrative that they don't spend. Like they do spend money in free agency. They just locked up their quarterback. But you want people to shut up, go pay Jim Harbaugh. Go show us that everybody's wrong here. So they have an opportunity to do it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and it's not that they don't spend money. They spend money. They just can't outspend teams. That's the difference. Like they do spend. Like that's the narrative is wrong there, Gilbert. I think they do spend on players. They do spend on staff. The problem is you just can't compete with guys like Stan Kroenke who can just go out there and shell out money. That's the difference. And hey, no, there's no, they're still bringing in money. It's just it's hard to compete when a dude has like $30 billion, and he can just go out and just throw money away. Um, and then one more question here from Nancy: will the Bulls draft in the top four? And then she also had a question for you earlier. I think it had to do with: uh, do you think that uh, they might want to trade? The Broncos might want to trade with the Chargers um, during the draft, because she was asking what happens. What do they do? The $1 million question is: do the Broncos, are they going to move up for a quarterback now that Wilson is no longer in their plans? Is Jarrett Stidham the guy there? Or like she said, do they try to trade up with the Chargers or any other team to try to get their quarterback of the future?
Yeah, normally I would say no because divisional rivals don't trade with each other, but we've seen a couple of trades like that happen. We've seen it with the Vikings and the Lions do it a couple of times. So you never know. But yeah, I could definitely see the Chargers trading down. If somebody wants like a Jaden Daniels from LSU, that's big for the Chargers. You get more capital, unless you're like worried that hey, someone's going to take one of these tackles or Brock Bowers. Then you got to just take the best guy available. I mean, unless somebody just wants to kind of move up from one spot and then you're guaranteed the guy you want. But yeah, it's gonna be a tricky situation, and the higher they get, the better. They moved up a couple spots because a bunch of teams won over the weekend. They're number 6 now, so they get top 5. That'd be pretty big because you know, I don't know if his Marvin Harrison Jr. is gonna last until like pick 5, but you want to have an opportunity to get the guy or get one of the 2 tackles like from Notre Dame or Alabama or even a Brock Bowers. But they're sitting pretty if they get top 5 because somebody wants a quarterback. They always do. And you could definitely get a boatload of picks out of that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be an interest. We'll get there this offseason, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the draft order, Gilbert, because the now that Arizona has gone back to losing games, they're entrenched in that number 2 pick. What do they do? Do they trade? Do they trade their quarterback? Do they keep that pick? Do they go and get a quarterback? Do they trade out and have more? Because I would think the Cardinals would want to take Marvin Harrison Jr. So how far do you drop down? For a team to come in and draft their quarterback. I mean, I can't wait till this offseason because it's going to be interesting to see. But I've already seen that everybody's picking an offensive lineman for the Chargers. So, I mean, they'll have their choosing there wherever they end up. I don't think you need to move up. But to Nancy's question, I think part of the reason you want to move down is so you have more picks and because one of the big questions is, as you brought it up already, and we'll get to it, during the offseason, is the Chargers. What are they're gonna get rid of some contracts. They have, I think, 5 guys who are making over $30 million. A couple of those guys are not gonna be back on this team, and so you're kind of wanting to do what the Rams did, where you shed a bunch of money. You make this a gap year, and then you just try to load up on draft picks, and you hope with the new general manager, you hope you're like the Rams and you're able to hit on 5 of those guys, and 5 of those guys become your starters next season.
Yeah, like I told Fernando, I said you restart for sure on defense. Get rid of Joey Bosa, get rid of Khalil Mack, and make sure maybe Keenan and Mike are back, and that way you could draft an offensive lineman or maybe a tight end, and you focus on Herbert and let the new coordinator figure out the defense. But these are all questions we're going to cover on Compas on the Beat throughout the offseason. But let's get the quick dump offs here. What we
Right.
got?
All right. So we already did Jets and Browns. We're both going with the Browns, right? What was the line there?
7.5.
So we're both
Yeah.
going with the Browns there. We got Rams and Giants. If you're checking us out, go. We did a preview of this matchup. We both like the Rams in this game. It was 6, and I think the over under was 42. And we both like the Rams to not only cover but also. You said you like the under in that game, right?
Yeah, let me double check. But that line now is -5.5. Rams, I went down a bit. And let me check the total real quick because yeah, so this is where I feel better. It's 44.5. When he said 42 on the show, I kind of was a little hesitant, but 44, I'm cool with taking under on this one.
Yeah, if it's 44.5, I'm with you. I'm taking the under. And I feel like the Rams, they've had some collapses the last couple of games against the Commanders and against the Saints, but they've been able to cover. So, they've been scoring over 30 points and since the bye week, they scored, I think the only game they didn't score over 30 was against the Browns, but they've been a well-oiled machine on offense. So we like them to get a step closer to making the playoffs there. We talked about Panthers, Jaguars, right?
Yes, we did. I got the Panthers covering, and I think you did too. I forget.
Yes.
Yes, plus 6.5, and the Jaguars win. But Atir does not agree. All right, what we got?
Yeah, I like that. Nancy says Nakua is going to hit 1,950,
Oh,
which would mean that he would fall 14 yards from getting the. Not only he going to go over the rookie record, Gilbert, which is 1,723, but he's going to fall 14 yards short of Calvin Johnson's record of
I'm hoping
1,960.
Nancy is counting the playoffs because that's really tough to do at 13 something,
Yeah.
13-27. But I could definitely see him breaking the rookie record, but then he got what 160 on Sunday. I mean
He
Thursday.
needs
Again,
he needs 147 to break the record in the next two games, the rookie record.
I'll say he won with like 1,500 at least in the regular season, but I don't know about the playoffs. But
Yeah. All
I'm
right.
okay
Next
with that.
one. Next one I have here is Texas and Titans.
Texans and Titans, it's -5 Texans, and I think CJ Stroud's gonna play. So there's my answer. I go with the Texans. I've been picking the Texans every single week. I got burned last week, but no CJ Stroud. I think he'll be back for this one. Give me the Texans, and they're fighting for a playoff spot.
You know what? I like I'm with you with the Texans. I like them to win the game, but I like the Titans to keep it close. That line's a
Yeah.
little bit too big. You have CJ Stroud coming back from concussion. It might take him a little bit to get going. So I like the Titans to at least keep. One of the things I love about Bravo is he keeps these games really ugly. Like he muddles them up, and so I think you're gonna see that as well here. Next one is Bears Falcons. I gave you
Uh,
the over under on that one only.
yeah. Bears -3. You know what? I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'll take the Falcons, and they're gonna be money line for me, but they're +3.
I'm gonna stay with the bid. I think I went against it against the Panthers and I got burned. I'm not doing it anymore. Give me no. Actually, I picked that one. That I said that they would get their second win. Give me the Bears here. I'm done picking the Falcons. I've been done for a while. I'm done on the Falcons. Patriots Bills is next. I think you said
Yeah.
the line was 13.5.
13. Let me see, but I took the Patriots to cover. Yeah, 13, and I'll take the Bills to win.
Yeah, no, give me the Bills too. I think they're on a mission now. I One of the things I saw you guys talk about was you were kind of disappointed with the Bills not being able to blow out the Chargers. One of the things I've been seeing the last, what was it, with the Chargers. So the Chargers played the Ravens. The Ravens didn't look good against them. The Cowboys played against the Chargers. They didn't look good against them. The Lions kept the Chargers in the game. They didn't look good against them. So I just think it's a matchup thing. But these two guys know each other. So give me the Bills to cover here.
Somewhere Brandon Staley is saying, "See, listen to that guy." Uh, but yeah. All right, what we got next?
Next one is Cardinals Eagles.
Uh, these Eagles have been very disappointing, but the Cardinals stink, and oh, no way I could do that. I have no faith in the Eagles, and last week they proved me right on cover or on the Giants covering. So you know what? F it. I'm gonna take the Cardinals plus 10.5, but I got the Eagles winning.
Yeah, I'm with you. One of the things the Cardinals do really well is they run the ball. One of the biggest weaknesses on this Eagles team is their inability to be able to not play the run well. Those linebackers keep getting exposed every week. I like the Cardinals to cover, but the Eagles win this game.
Okay.
Next one is Saints Buccaneers.
Oh, that one I already went with the Bucks to -2.5.
Yeah, give me the Bucks as well. I'm with you. 49ers Commanders. Can I guess this line? I haven't looked at it. Is it like 15?
13.
13. Yeah, give me the 49ers. They're gonna take
Yeah,
out their frustration out on the
yeah.
Commanders.
This is the one team I have no faith in being competitive. I think they're done. They're checked out. So give me the 49ers also -13.
By the way, I love how they're tanking this the way they're tanking this, Gilbert. They go out and put somehow out there for 3 quarters, and then they're like,
Yeah,
"Hey, Jacoby Brissett, come on in,
yeah.
make this
You're
game close." So
you're better, but don't win.
yeah, there you go. He's like, we'll keep it at we'll make sure that the score is so far ahead to where even if you try bringing us back, you're not gonna win.
Yeah, I
All
was
right,
surprised that the Jets almost lost that one.
yeah, Steelers, Seahawks.
This one is -3.5 for the Seahawks. I'll say the Steelers cover, but I'll take the Seahawks to win.
Oh man, this is such a tough one, but I'm gonna go with the Seahawks. The Steelers have been playing well. I don't know what that was. Do you think that was just a one-off for Mason Rudolph, or do you actually think that they found something here?
Yeah, I did not really see that coming from Mason, but he's still gonna eventually. It's like sometimes his backups have good games, but then they always kind of come back down to earth, and they're a backup for a reason. That could definitely happen to Mason this weekend.
Yeah, the only quarterback who hasn't had that happen to him was Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco's a different kind of quarterback. He's been a starter for a while, so
Yeah.
that's where the similarities end. All right, Gilbert, we go to the one that Nancy said she's calling the storyline of the game, and that's Bengals Chiefs.
Yeah. I don't know if Jamar Chase plays, like I could definitely see the Chiefs losing, but I just saw Jamar Chase hasn't practiced, and it really showed last week when they got their butts whooped by the Steelers. Or maybe just a matchup problem. They got swept by Pittsburgh. But give me the Bengals to cover +7, but I'll take the Chiefs to win, and that's because they might not have Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think the Chiefs are upset about everything that the Bengals defense has just with and they might have caused Aramulo, what do you say his
Yeah,
name? They
yeah,
might have
Ruben
cost him.
Aroma.
Yeah, they might have cost him a head coaching job. I know a lot of people were saying that they thought he'd probably get the job with the Raiders. I just don't. I don't see it. That team has a lot of holes on that defense. I thought they'd be better this year, and honestly, the biggest disappointment outside of Joe Burrow getting hurt has been that Bengals defense. And our last game here to go over because we already talked about Chargers Broncos is Packers Vikings.
Yeah, this is an intriguing matchup, but you know what? No Jair Alexander and Nick Mullins is getting turnovers left and right, but he knows how to push the ball down the field and give Jefferson a chance. So I'll take the Vikings -2 here. You don't have to worry about the cornerback there. So give me the Vikings to beat the Packers on Sunday Night Football, which I kind of hate. There's a game on Sunday Night Football when there's New Year's Eve, but whatever.
Yeah, it's just the way they structure these games. I don't understand why this is the Sunday night game when you could have had um, Ravens and Dolphins, but I'm sure they're happy
Yeah.
about it. They don't have to have to deal with this. But you know what? I'm just gonna go with the Vikings as well. I don't have any faith in either of these two teams. The Packers defense under Joe Barry just continues to take a step back. And then the Vikings, I just don't know what to expect. The one guy I can't trust is Brian Flores. What he's done with that defense has been outstanding. I hope he gets another shot at being a head coach because what he's done with that Vikings defense, if you can name me two players, I'll say you're a football enthusiast because I honestly not a lot of people can name more than two guys on that defense.
Harrison Smith and Neil Hunter,
There you go.
the
See.
easy ones.
Yeah. All right, Gilbert. We have one more comment here, and it's from Nancy, who's been on. Thank you, Nancy, for staying on. And she wants to ask: is Keenan Allen a Charger next year, or will he be traded?
I think he'll be on the team. Maybe they'll restructure the contract or do something different. But he's too valuable for Justin Herbert, and I think this team really missed Mike Williams. So I think that's why I'm leaning on the wide receiver sticking around, not the edge rushers, because Brandon Staley's not around. You got to rebuild the defense anyways. You got Thule. So I say get rid of the two edge rushers, keep the two wide receivers. Unless you have an opportunity to take Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't think they will. And they also got Quentin Johnston too and Josh Palmer. Keep that core there, and then make sure you focus on the tight end Brock Bowers or the two tackles. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would bring him. I When you have a player like Keenan Allen who's been on a team for this many years, you want to see him retire with that team. You don't want to see, and I get it. I get if the Chargers are done with him and they want to move on from him. That's a different story. But if the player wants to come back, take a pay cut, which it happens a lot of the times where they're like, look at all the statistics I put up last season. I should be getting paid like top receiver money. That's where the whole, you're gonna run into problems. But if they're both cool with each other and he wants to end his career, uh, I'm trying to remember, did Gates end his career with the Chargers as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, and
He tried one more year, but nobody picked him up. But he stayed with the Chargers.
yeah, see, you would want that too with Keenan Allen. I would like to see that. I would like him to finish his career with the Chargers. I hate when you have like Emmitt Smith going to the Cardinals, or it's like it's weird. I want to see Barry Sanders. Like I always remember Barry Sanders as a Detroit Lion. Like like you have. I saw a story, and I'll keep it short, Gilbert, before we go. That came up that I had no idea that Deion Sanders had an opportunity to play for the Raiders during that 2002 season, and Marty Schottenheimer claimed him before, because he was with the Washington Redskins at the time, and so he was going to come out of retirement just to play for the Raiders, but he had to go through waivers, and so Marty Schottenheimer, not wanting the Raiders to claim him, he picked up Deion Sanders, and then Deion Sanders was like, "I'm just gonna retire." But yeah, seeing Deion Sanders play with the Falcons, the Cowboys, the 49ers, and then he went to the Ravens and to Washington. It was just weird.
Yeah, and it's rare in the NFL too, because guys want to play longer, but they're not as good as they used to be. So teams got to move on. The good teams know how to move on quickly. And the ones that are aggressive are definitely the Patriots. But Keenan Allen is still playing well, so let's see what he does. Especially he's so big for Justin Herbert on third down, money down. So yeah, should be fascinating to see what happens with this team in cap hell, which is weird because usually Tom Telesco had it running smoothly, but he's not around anymore. So yeah, we got it covered. All NFL Week 17 games. We're going a little longer, but that means people are chatting and then dropping comments. So I love that. And if you're new here and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It help us out. It goes a long way. We're trying to we got over 1,000 here on Compas on the Beat, but we're trying to get to over 1,000 on What's a Boat, House of Horns, Combat Compas. So anywhere that you see that's Compas on the Beat network related, make sure you're subscribed, you're following, and you're liking everything. And thank you, Nancy, for being on too. But yeah, usually on Wednesdays we'd like to jump on here to talk on NFL like around 7:30, 7:45, and then we do Mondays with Fernando around 2:30 Pacific on Monday. So, but this actually is gonna be New Year's Day, so it's gonna be on Tuesday this week. So Tuesday. But yeah, and then after that, it's gonna be the playoffs. You might have to rearrange things, but for right now, it seems like Wednesdays and Mondays are our days. But then I know Fernando has some plans to do more lives for What's Up Boats and talk more Chargers there too. So yeah, we're doing more lives, and we really see people engaging, and we're getting to know people, and that's been the best part because in this era of like nobody wants to hang out in person, this is the best thing here is to hang out on live and chat with people.
Yeah, and I mean, you can also find us on House of Horns. We preview Rams there, the Rams games. We were on there earlier, and then we'll be back. Gilbert and I will be back for the post game show uh Sunday after the game. Hopefully, it all depends on Gilbert's schedule because he's got to cover the NFL for Sports Illustrated. So usually we'll let you guys know ahead of time when we'll be on to uh kind of go over the post game show for the Rams there on House of Horn. So if you're wanting to just to go and support us, you can go on there. Give us a sub there. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on there. We're giving away a Puka Nakua jersey just for that.
Yeah, so a lot going on here on the network. We appreciate all the support, and again, check out all the both links in the description. The one where you could donate on PayPal for us to get more equipment for Super Bowl Radio Row, or you want to buy some merch and help us out that way and have something cool in return, like a nice hat, or a nice hoodie, and a nice shirt. That's definitely a way to do it too. And we actually have a nice website too. So certifiedcompas.shop if you can, and maybe we'll do an in-person meetup and we'll sell some merch that way too. But I'm ready to go, Victor. Are you?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready for week 17. We got 2 more weeks left in the regular season, Gilbert. Let's see. It's been crazy the last couple of weeks with upsets. Let's see what happens this week, because I mean there's more and more possibilities. I think one of the cool things I saw this week, Gilbert, before we go, 24 teams are still alive in playoff contention. That is the most teams we've had going into week 17 since 2004.
Yeah, that's the one of the perks of having seven teams in the playoffs. More teams are alive until the end. So we'll see what happens. And it should be an eventful week 17 in the NFL. 2 more regular seasons to go. But on that note, ya nos vamos, pues vámonos.